Today we are comparing the Urban Decay Naked Honey palette versus the Colourpop Honey palette. Hey, it's Amanda. Hope you guys are having a fantastic day. Thank you so much for stopping by. If you enjoy beauty hauls, subscription unboxings, first impressions of new makeup products, eyeshadow palette reviews, and more, I would really appreciate it if you click subscribe. That way you never miss an upload. I don't know about you guys, but I have been very overwhelmed with makeup releases. Smash that like if you want to see that in a different video. It is a lot to talk about. I am kind of exhausted, overwhelmed, and maybe to an extent like makeup fatigued. So I'm just trying to be a little bit more selective of what I decide to purchase. And it's gonna sound so bad because I felt like I did not need this palette, but it's because I have every other palette in like its line or family. It's the Naked Honey palette. I also have the Colourpop Honey palette. I know I didn't even need this. I kind of just purchased it because I already had every other monochromatic palette. So I just felt pressured on buying this, kind of like this where I have every other naked palette. So I was like, maybe we can just do a head-to-head comparison. Also gonna break this up into a series because I also recently picked up the Midas Cosmetics Lemonade palette. This is my first time ordering from Midas Cosmetics, so I haven't tried any of their eyeshadow palettes. I don't know anything about their formula or what their quality of products are like. Since I am familiar with both Urban Decay's and Colourpop's formula, I was gonna start off with these two, but I also want to compare the Urban Decay to the Midas and then the Midas to the Colourpop. Hopefully that's not overkilling it. Where is all this yellow eyeshadow coming from? Who demanded it? It's nothing against yellow eyeshadow. I was just kind of taken back that 3 separate companies made 3 dedicated yellow palettes. So if you're interested in seeing my thoughts, the comparisons, and to see if we can create a similar eye look using both of these palettes, then definitely keep on watching. So starting with the Urban Decay Naked Honey palette, it is $49 and you get 12 different shades. This is what the inside looks like. It has a gorgeous big mirror and it comes with a brush. And for a honey palette, it doesn't look that honey to me. I would have liked to see maybe more yellows. On this side of the palette, we have more orangey brown with like a yellow undertone. And on this side, we have more of the brown neutrals. And then the 3 shades right here in the center are more of the yellow shades. This is a little bit cheaper than the typical naked palettes are, which are about $54. And then we have the Colourpop Honey palette, and you get 9 shades and you pay $12. One of my biggest complaints about this palette is there is a pressed glitter. A lot of people don't like pressed glitters because they aren't eye safe. For me, YOLO, and that sounds so terrible because I do work in the ophthalmology industry, which ophthalmology is the study of the eye. I like that this palette has more yellows, but I don't think it does a good balance of having yellows and browns. I really only feel like we get 2 brown shades. Even this one's kind of questionable. Maybe Queen Bee. I don't know. They're very brownish, but this is the most affordable palette of them all. And then we'll go over the Midas Cosmetics Lemonade palette when we do those videos with them. Let's start with some swatches of the Naked Honey. I feel like I haven't swatched an Urban Decay palette in a while. Flyby Sweet Swarm. Amber Keeper Golden. Honey Queen Hive. Drip Hibbic Sting. And this is what the Naked Honey palette looks like swatched. Looking at the swatches and then looking back at this palette, a lot of these shades look a little bit more vibrant. These definitely have the more orangey pop to them that I was looking for, that they would turn up a little bit more brown. Where on this side, it definitely has more of that reddish brown shade. Honey, I thought would be maybe a little bit more brighter, but I like Golden a lot. It is definitely a pretty gold shade. There is pigment throughout the entire swatch of each shade. Everything felt really nice and creamy. Some mattes were drier than others, but overall they were so smooth. As well as the shimmers. Golden was the chunkiest shimmer, and it even left a little crumbled mark in the pan from where I touched it. I think I'm a little bit more excited looking at it a little bit more swatched. A lot of people don't really care for swatches, but then there are some that do. I definitely like swatches. It is definitely telling me that these shades have definitely more popping potential than just looking at this palette, especially in this area right here. I was not expecting that. I am going to attempt to do a left-handed swatches. That way we can kind of look at them. But if it ends up being a fail, I don't want it to look like I'm purposely trying to sabotage Colourpop, because I'm not. I love Colourpop. I just bought the damn lilac palette that launched. And I'm like, really? Do you really need another palette? Also, the So Jaded palette was on my list. It got me with the whatever palette. I'm in like that mood of collecting Colourpop palettes. It's just so affordable that I just don't feel bad spending the money. But then I look at my bank account, I'm like, girl, are you gonna eat? Nah, who needs to buy necessities when you can have a new eyeshadow palette? I have never swatched a palette like this before. I don't even know if my hand is capable of doing this. Actually, I might be able to swatch this side of my arm, and then we can kind of like move the arm. Let's try that. Stinger, Sunburst, Sweet Spot. Dandy, Palooza, Queen Bee. Thought I was gonna take out the whole shade of Palooza right there. Totally Buggin', Oh Behave, Buzzkill. And this is what the Honey palette looks like swatch. Holding my arm like this is so uncomfortable. Naked Honey, we have a little bit of orangey brown, we have some yellow, and then we have some like more brownish orange. Oh god, I just got like all the swatch on my shirt right there. But then we have more yellow with like a pop of brown. I'm gonna go on ahead and wipe this off before I make an even bigger mess. I went on ahead and filled in my brows. I felt like I'm having like a good brow day. Damn, right brow be looking good. And then left brow came in for the kill. I'm having glitter spreading, and I haven't even started playing with that palette yet. We are gonna go on ahead and prime. Both sides are gonna be primed the same way. Do you know what we are priming with? Dun dun dun! BIJOU primer, ding ding ding. Will I ever use another primer again? Probably when I run out of this tube. Is it really an It's Amanda palette review if I don't use the BIJOU primer? And yes, I went to go cover my blemish that I have right there. Naked Honey is gonna be right eye, and Honey is gonna be left eye. Starting with the Naked Honey, let's take the shade Keeper. I think this is gonna be a very pretty shade just to get things kicked off. And I'm on a Luxie 205 taper blending. There is a little bit of kickback, but it's staying in its lane. Bring it right here at the beginning of my eye. I'm like, how far do I want to bring this up and around? It went on really nice, and it could be built up to your liking. And then I'm gonna take a Farrah number 3 mini taper blending. We're gonna take the Totally Buggin' shade. A little bit of kickback. Surprised how yellow this shade is, because it looks a little bit more orangey yellow. It looks very similar to what Keeper looks like. This is the shade I'm currently putting, and then Keeper is this shade that went on this eye. So if you're trying to stay in that yellow theme, then definitely Honey. But that might be premature. That's just something I'm observing. I tend to like talk out loud and give my comments, and I think that's just the former scientist in me. You know, I'm documenting in real time what I'm seeing. That's just a habit I have. I have a Luxie 231 small taper blending. I'm gonna dip into Hive. I feel that Hive is going to be similar to Colourpop's Buzzkill, but we were clearly wrong on that aspect when we applied Totally Bugging. So this shade is going to help round out, it's actually very similar to Keeper, to help round out the outer V. I watched Emily Noel's video, and she made a really good point. I'm not going to be quoting her, I'm just interpreting my takeaway of her video, that this is a palette that might be easier to create looks with because of the shades kind of being so similar that everything will be nice, well put, and together. It looks really blended right now, and if I had a rainbow look going on, it'd be looking a little wild, but it looks like a nice gradient. And then I have another Luxie 231 taper blending, and we're gonna take Buzzkill and do the same. This eye I can definitely tell that we are going in with a brown shade, because this side is very orangey yellow. So I really like how this is a nice transition, but I like how you can tell that this is the outer V shade and this was the main crease. So I'm conflicted of which one do I like better. I want that really nice snatched gradient look, but I also like my looks to be really well defined. I'm gonna take a fair short shading brush and dip into golden. Place this on the lid. Didn't feel like cutting the crease or wetting it. I just want to get a nice feel for the shade because I typically want to wet my shimmers and I don't always like to cut my crease. And I'm going to take a BH Cosmetics brush and dip into Queen Bee and then place, I think this is the most similar shade between the two palettes. Quickly got to make sure that Hive and Golden are blended together and then do the same with Buzzkill and Queen Bee. I'm going to take the Colourpop Cream Gel Liner. This is the shade Overboard. And I'm just going to add it to my waterline. I almost took the neon yellow. I'm going to take Drip on a Morphe E36. And then I'm going to take Buzzkill. On the same E36, I'm going to take the shade Honey, and we're going to put this in the inner corner. And I think for this, I am going to take some MAC Fix. Oh, that's a nice pop of yellow. I want to wrap this around my entire waterline. I love this. And then we're going to take Dandy, and I'm on a Luxie 141 mini round. And MAC Fix. Wow, these actually look very similar. It's funny because the look of it looked very different when we were just starting out building the eye, when we had our first two shades on, and then once we put on the shimmer shade is when it started to look a little bit more similar. I don't necessarily think you need to buy both palettes. Colourpop's is definitely a more affordable option. There are different shades. This one's more yellow. There is a pressed glitter, and then you get 3 shimmers and 5 mattes. Now, I didn't explore all of the yellow mattes, and I can't tell if they are going to be very similar to each other. I think with the Urban Decay Naked palette, this would be a good starter palette. Someone that is getting into makeup, someone who wants to learn the basics of blending, and who also wants to explore some pops of color. This palette is very buildable as well. I know I wanted a more brighter look, but it can also be not as bam in your face. Not everyone wants a nice big popping look like I do. Someone might want something a little bit more subtle. $49 is a little bit expensive for just 12 shades. I feel like there are still many more looks to create. Definitely took me by surprise as it looks like all these shades are very similar. This palette has like a more gradient story to tell of being a little bit more orangey. You got some yellows and some browns. Whereas at a first glance, you're just like, oh, it's all browns with one yellow. When you actually swatch and apply is not the case. This one's only $12, and I feel like if you want to play with some yellow shades, maybe that this would be a better palette. I didn't dip into the yellow mattes. I stayed with the orangey yellow and like the browns to be able to mimic the look of the Urban Decay. But I feel in the end, this palette will need to be paired with another palette just because some of the shades look very similar on the swatch. Looking at this palette, I do feel a little bit limited with all of the yellow mattes and shimmers. I would like to maybe have a couple extra browns to maybe help balance it. So the follow-up question of which palette would win this battle, and there's a lot to consider. My pigment payoff, I think Colourpop wins this round. I keep staring at the shade Dandy in my inner corners. Honey is not as bright. Price point, I would have to give it to Colourpop as well because it's $12 for 9 shades and this is $49 for 12. Now, more versatile, practical palettes, I would have to give it to the Urban Decay Naked palette. I just feel more inspired by this palette. It's a really close call because I'm thinking of all these different things. Who knows? We haven't done Lemonade yet. Maybe this one will be the winner. I definitely enjoyed both of these. Honey definitely took me by surprise. I mean, I was even Sephora and I was looking at them like I don't feel inspired by it. But Young Blood by 5 Seconds to Summer came on. You know, the line where you need it. Yeah, you need it. And I'm like, I do need it. So I ended up just picking it up. And now that I have swatched and applied it on the eyes, I definitely feel a little bit more inspired. If I didn't have either one of these and collecting the naked palettes and collecting the monochromatic palettes wasn't a thing, I think ultimately in the end, I would have probably picked up the Naked Honey just because there are more shades. I think that this palette has a lot more to offer. I know for me, I don't like having to pair up my palettes together. It's just a peeve of mine. It just out of my way, more of a hassle. Looking at it, it's just too yellow. I think that they could have made a better color story. Kind of how like they branched out for their Just My Look palette. It caters to more green shades, but there was this beautiful like yellow shimmer, and I think there was a brown shade. It still had that green look to it, but it also incorporated like these really funky shades to help balance it out. Definitely let me know in the comments, which palette do you think won? Do you have either one of these palettes? Are you on the fence about purchasing one of them? And if you are, which one are you leaning towards? Would love to know your thoughts. If you have these palettes, do we have similar thoughts on the products? Do we have polar opposite thoughts? I thought it was a lot of fun to go head to head because of how similar these palettes are, and I can't wait to test out the lemonade. And I do want to do lemonade versus naked as well, and lemonade versus honey. These are 3 different palettes, 3 different color stories, price points, formulas. I'm just having a blast over here. Thank you so much for watching. I really hope you enjoyed this video and found it helpful. Don't forget to subscribe before you leave, and I'll see you in the next video.